Hey guys, I'm Greg from Desolate Motorsports, and today we have our Calypso camper build here in the shop. We have obviously taken the bed off, and we wanted to do that to show you how we're gonna do the new rear suspension install. So we have our Desolate Motorsports heavy duty complete rear suspension kit that we're gonna be installing on this truck. And just a quick overview of what that kit is. It's a proprietary leaf spring that we've designed in conjunction with Deaver Spring. It has proprietary Desolate Motorsports shackle mounts, hangers, shackles. We include King shocks with a raised upper shock mount. That shock mount allows the truck to get 13 inches of travel while keeping everything under the bed. Does not impede on any fuel tanks, any fitments of any aftermarket components. Basically everything gets replaced. And the cool part about it, 100% bolt on. There is zero welding, zero crazy modifications in order to do this. We worked with King Shocks directly to build a custom shock that fit. I mean, it's a tight fit, and we worked with them directly to make this whole package. This truck spent most of its life in Utah, a little bit in Idaho. So you can see it's definitely been driven on some dirt roads. It's not cream puff perfect, but it's definitely not rotted out. It had a gooseneck hitch on it, which we are going to be removing. For some reason, all these trucks seem to have gooseneck hitches on them. We don't think there's any issue why you couldn't have a gooseneck hitch with this suspension kit, but we don't need it on this truck, so we're gonna remove all this bracketry. Right now I'm gonna get the truck jacked up. I'm gonna get jack stands underneath it, and I'm literally just gonna start taking everything off. The main focus is gonna be like the front spring mounts that are riveted to the frame, the back shackle hangers are gonna be riveted to the frame, the leaf springs themselves, the shocks, the factory sway bar, and any miscellaneous parts that we no longer need. The bump stop brackets will get replaced with our new kit. Now this kit is designed to pair perfectly like with our Dana 50 coilover front end, or maybe our Super Duty coilover conversion that we offer, and it's specifically designed for the heavier duty trucks, so your F250s and your F350s. Now, even though an F150 has the same dimension of spring, this spring was designed for the trucks that are gonna see some towing, see some load carrying capacity. They're a little bit heavier. So it is a little different than the half-ton parts. You know, in certain circumstances, you may be able to utilize this on a half-ton if you're doing something special with it where you need to have a little bit beefier spring, but that's a nuance, so you should contact us before doing that so we can make sure to point you in the right direction. But like I said, for now, we're gonna work on getting this thing disassembled. We wanna clean up after we get all these parts off. We're gonna clean the frame really well, and we're gonna paint. We're doing a new fuel tank in the back, and we're gonna kind of pull everything apart, get in, do like a little mini restoration, if you will. This is not a show car, but we want it to look nice. So we're gonna take that extra time to go through and just clean up and paint and, you know, smooth everything out and make it look nice. Now, this kit can be done with the bed on. We took the bed off because of the fact that we're doing all that cleaning and painting, but you can do it with the bed on. Honestly, it took our crew about 15 minutes to take the bed off. I know it seems like a big job. It's 6 bolts and some wires and 2 filler necks. You pick it up and you get it out of the way. You're not gonna get in here and clean and paint this if you don't take the bed off. It's just too hard. So we really like to take the bed off, and we spent years working on Broncos where we didn't have that opportunity to just easily lift the bed off, so we did everything underneath. We do it up on the lift, but I really wanna show you guys that this can be done on the ground. Like, I'm just here in the shop on a Saturday. I'm gonna pretty much do this whole thing by myself, maybe with an extra hand, but it's not something where you need specialty tools, you need a crazy shop with a lift. We're just gonna put this thing on jack stands, blow the parts apart, and literally bolt the new stuff on. There's a couple little things that we're gonna show you that you gotta be aware of while doing it, but it's gonna be a really straightforward install and something you can do in your driveway with a buddy over a weekend or something. So hope you're excited, and we'll get to it. So right now I'm going to disconnect the parking brake cables. They are going to route a little differently once the new bracketry's on, so just disconnect these from the frame. You don't need to remove the bracket from the frame, but just get the cables pushed back through. And I'll show you here, they kind of have like a little flared out like locking system. So when they go through the hole, these little tabs flare open, which locks them in. So you just need to pinch them down and then pull back and they'll extract themselves from the bracket. And we are going to reuse these, so we don't want to damage them, but we are going to have to route them a little bit differently, so that's why we disconnect them. There's a small retaining bracket here. We're going to and retain the hardware and the little bracket to be reused later. This is the stock sway bar mount. We've removed the sway bar already from this axle. Some trucks don't even have a sway bar, but some have the bracket there. If you have it, go ahead and remove it. We won't need it anymore. So these two items may become your best friend when doing any type of suspension disassembly. So we're here in California. This truck actually came from Utah. It's in great condition, but it's obviously got a little bit of corrosion on it. And if you come from other areas of the country, it could be a lot worse than this. So you got stuck bolts, you're gonna wanna heat them up. There's also induction style heaters. They're a little safer, especially around fuel and stuff, so you can look into those. But penetrating oil, this is a CRC Ultra Screw Loose. Everybody's got their preference. The concept is the same. You heat up the bolt, you spray it with the penetrating oil. When it gets hot, everything expands a little bit. Those metal molecules expand and it draws that penetrating oil in. So I'm trying to remove this gooseneck hitch that we don't need right now. And I already hit the bolts once, the impact didn't even budge them. So we're gonna do this process, see if it comes off a little bit easier. So again, heat, being cognizant of fuel lines, electrical, things like that. So I'm gonna heat this bolt up, you know, hold it on there for 30 seconds or so. You're not gonna get it red hot burning, but you're gonna definitely warm everything up. And we're gonna spray the penetrating oil on. You'll see it smoke a little bit. That's a good sign that it's hot enough and it's drawing in that oil. So you'll see this sometimes with aftermarket parts. The quality of the bolts that were used here were subpar to the factory bolts. So I'm really struggling with these bolts, but it's probably because one, they didn't have as good a coating on them, or they weren't as hard or strong as the material as like the factory bolts. So that's why these crummy bolts from this old gooseneck hitch are giving me such a hard time. Again, not all trucks are gonna have this. This is something that this truck was installed on this truck aftermarket, so I just need to get it off of here. If it really comes down to it, I'll just cut the heads off the bolts. Again, another reason why it's nice to have the bed off, because I have the access to this stuff. If I was doing this under the truck, laying on my back, dirt falling in my face, it's such a mess, especially with a dirty old truck. So just another reason why we like to take the bed off, to really get in there and get this stuff done right. Voila. 4 more to go, 3 more to go, sorry. Okay, so we're in the disassembly process, obviously, and we've already removed the factory shocks and the sway bar that was on this truck. I am now gonna release the U-bolts from holding the rear axle to the leaf springs. And I already have a jack under there, and I already have jack stands under there. Our drive shaft is still connected. We don't need to disconnect that for this process unless you were going more thorough with taking the rear end out to do work on it or something like that. But for us right now, we don't need to do that. So we're just gonna drop the U-bolts and then lower the rear end down onto the jack stand so that it's safely sitting on the jack stand. So as we stated earlier, this rear suspension kit is a perfect pairing for our Dana 50 coilover or our Super Duty axle coilover. So this truck is getting our Dana 50 coilover front suspension, so we're gonna retain the factory rear axle. If you were doing a Super Duty axle swap, which is super popular, it's a great way to go. The only difference is you're gonna physically be removing this old rear end and you're not gonna be putting it back in. Now, when you do that, you will be responsible for welding new shock mounts onto the lower side of that Super Duty axle, because factory Super Duty shocks are inverted. One goes forward, one goes back. The OBS truck and our aftermarket shock mounts, both shocks face forward. So if you're doing this kit on an OBS, keeping the factory Sterling 10 1/4 rear end, You won't have to do any of that extra work. You can leave the rear end down on the jack stands, do all your work and just reattach it. If you're doing a Super Duty axle swap, you will have that extra step of physically putting the new axle under and mating that, welding those shock mounts and mating the leaf springs to the U-bolt plates. So Ford attached a lot of the secondary bracketry to the chassis with these really, really strong rivets. We've got to remove them. A lot of people complain about having to take them off, that they're a pain in the butt, and yes, they kind of are, but if you have the right tools and you know what you're doing, you can blow them apart pretty fast. And it's not a super fun job, but it's got to be done. So I'm going to explain to you how we do it. There's other ways to do it, but this is the way that we've done it for years. It's always worked well. So we use a cutoff wheel, and we're going to put a cross hatch in the rivet. If you can put an X, even better. The more material you can take out of the center of it, the better. You're gonna use your chisel bit and your air hammer. This is actually a Harbor Freight air hammer. We just replaced our like 15-year-old Snap-on one with this, and I'm impressed at how good it works. It was like 169 bucks. It does require a pretty decent amount of air, so you have to have a good compressor to push it, but this thing is badass. So, using your chisel bit, you're gonna, after cutting the crosshatch in it, you're gonna blow the head off. You're gonna be left with the remnants of the rivet down inside the frame. You're gonna put your pointy bit, I don't know what you call it, needle bit, I don't know. And you're just gonna right through the side. You're gonna see me do this 25 times back here. All of these rivets, here, shock mounts on the rear of the shock hanger, they all have rivets, they've all gotta come off. So we spent the last few days cleaning and painting the back half of our truck, and we've got it all ready for installation of the new products. We have all the new products laid out on the table here. This is what you'll receive if you order our complete heavy-duty rear suspension kit for the F250 or F350 trucks. And this is gonna consist of these big leaf springs that we designed in partnership with Deaver Spring. These are designed specifically for the heavy-duty trucks. These are not some half-ton spring that have been modified. This is a vehicle-specific spring pack. And these King shocks, these again, shocks specifically built around this chassis. So I'll go into more details about the small components as we debox everything and show you exactly what you're gonna be getting. Okay, so we've deboxed all of the parts that you'll be getting in this complete rear suspension kit, and I'm gonna kind of walk through, talk about what everything is, why it's done the way it's done, what it does, and how it works, and then we'll get putting them on the truck. But I wanna focus on one very, very important thing, and that is there is absolutely zero option for something this well sorted. We have done all of the hard work so you don't have to, down to bump stop relocation brackets, down to bolt-on products that don't require welding, factory shock mounts on the axle, so no welding. We worked with King to make a custom length shock to make sure this all happens for you guys that don't have the ability to weld. The springs, we went through months and months and months of testing. We started with one thing, we made some changes. We're looking for a lot of boxes to check here. We want something that rides good, we want something that tows good, we want something that can go off-road, we want something that's gonna make 99% of you guys happy, and I think this package right here is definitely that. So, I'm gonna get into what the parts are and what they do, and with that said, here we go. So, I touched on the Deaver springs. So these springs were designed by Deaver Spring. They are an exclusive to Desolate Motorsports. You can only buy them from Desolate Motorsports. They are not some modified version of an existing spring. They are 100% designed custom for these trucks. Again, looking for ride quality, looking for ability to keep towing, looking for a truck that, you know, really can still go off-road. In addition to the springs, to mount the springs, we have our spring mounts. We've manipulated all the geometry, different shackles, different hangers. This stuff all is direct replacement for stock. So you just remove the old, install the new. Very straightforward. Everything's gonna come with urethane bushings, grade 8 hardware. We're gonna make it very, very, very easy on you. Next thing's gonna be the shocks and the shock mounts. So these are our new shock mounts, and these shock mounts are designed to go under the bed. They are 100% bolt-on. They replace the stock rivets that the original shock mounts mounted with, and you replace those with bolts. These tuck the shock up higher to the bottom of the bed without protruding through. They don't require any crazy modifications to fuel tanks or anything like that like some previous offerings did. They come powder coated, and they allow us to mount these King 2.5 diameter shocks. Now again, I touched on this before, these shocks were kind of a custom deal, and it took us a while to kind of work through all of the numbers, but we have a shock that is gonna provide almost 10 inches of travel, has 2.5 reservoir, has compression adjusters, so we can get the ride quality on road, we can get the stiffness when needed for off-road purposes, and the hose configuration and the layout is so important because that's what keeps us from having to cut the shock mounts off and deal with all the complications of that. So this specific length reservoir, this specific hose and the orientation, that was all done custom. So don't think these are just some 10-inch travel 2.5 shocks you can go grab off Marketplace. These are very specific to this kit. The other thing that I can promise you that nobody else can offer you is this new sway bar system. So we've been doing sway bars in the back of the Broncos for almost 10 years now. We're the first people to ever really do a torsion style production level sway bar for those trucks. It's become a huge seller for us. We see how well it works. So we made a modified version for the trucks. Now, why would you want a sway bar? One, you're gonna be towing, you want the stability. Absolutely. Can this system be installed without the sway bar? Yes, but the sway bar does not limit articulation. It's only helping with on-road, off-road handling. It looks badass. It's got these awesome billet arms. Again, everything comes powder coated. Everything's grade 8 hardware, and it's 100% bolt-on. So if you're back there doing all this work and you want the best, I would highly, highly recommend doing the sway bar. We're gonna start putting the parts on this truck. Since we've already done the hard work of disassembly, cleaning, and painting, gotten that out of the way, this process, even though this looks like a lot of stuff, it's gonna go pretty quick. I mean, with me and maybe another hand, we could probably have this truck on its wheels in a couple of hours from this point forward, just because, again, we've given you everything you need, literally down to the rear brake line. Like this kit, you don't have to go running to the hardware store. You don't have to get your buddy with the welder. You're gonna have a little bit of cutting and grinding to do just for some clearance on the rear shocks, and that'll come with an instruction sheet for you guys. It's gonna help just minimize any rubbing or any type of frame contact. Aside from that, you might have to chase a hole or two where an old rivet came out for a new bolt to fit through. Sometimes they're slightly under a 1/2 inch so the 1/2 inch bolts don't push through. Aside from that, even down to the synthetic grease that you need for those urethane bushings, everything is gonna be here so you guys can do this job in like a weekend and not pulling your hair out, and you're gonna have the best riding OBS truck known to man. So I didn't want to bolt all this cool stuff on to a dirty old frame and a kind of little neurotic like that. So I spent the last few days cleaning and painting the frame. Now this truck is really, really, really nice for an original OBS, but it had definitely been driven down some dirt roads. It was just like old dirt just crudded on there, and it took me a while to get it clean. I spent more time cleaning and painting than it's gonna take me to install all of these parts. So that's an optional thing. You don't have to do that, but for this project, I wanted to do it, and so I took the extra effort. I'm gonna call this kind of a little bit of a body-on restoration. So we obviously didn't dismount the body from the frame, but we are gonna try to get under there and get it as nice looking as possible so that when we install the Desolate products, this thing's just gonna look top notch. And we're doing a new fuel tank in the back and some other things too. So I used a POR 15 coating on this. Something I personally haven't done before, but I did it due to the rust that the frame had. I wanted to encapsulate it, seal it, and then I went over it with the POR 15 top coat, which is a chassis black. So I think it gave it a nice finish, and we're gonna start getting these parts on it. It's gonna look really nice when all that stuff gets on it. So I think now we're ready to get started on the install. So we're gonna get the shackles, the hangers, and the front spring mounts installed. So after that, we can do the leaf springs. These 6 holes held the factory bracket on. I pulled the rivets out that we showed in the previous video, and I'm just cleaning these holes out with the drill bit before installing the new bracket. So I'm getting ready to install this new front leaf spring mount. Just note that this side goes back towards the leaf spring. It's a little more clearance. This side's the front, facing towards the front of the vehicle. More open side towards the back to give clearance for the leaf spring. And this bracket's super easy. It's gonna bolt on just right in place of the factory bracket with the new grade 8 hardware. And again, everything we sell here is gonna be sandblasted and powder coated semi-gloss black, so it's gonna have a great appearance on this frame and last for a long, long time. So if you guys are gonna be going through and doing this kind of extensive paint work on the frame, I highly recommend that you double check all the hardware and mock everything up first so you can ream any holes with the 1/2-inch drill bit that are gonna be attached to the frame, because you don't wanna get it painted, then have to go through and clean them out. All the bushings that we supply with this kit are gonna be a urethane design. We supply synthetic grease for these bushings. That includes the leaf springs and the shackles. So install the grease, install the bushings. Do not use any other grease. Use this grease. You do not need to have a Zerk fitting on there. You're just gonna spread it around and stick the sleeve through. This is gonna ensure that your bushings will not squeak and ensure that they last for a long, long time. So I'm now ready to install the leaf spring onto the shackles and hangers, and I wanted to show something real quick. I've mounted the shackle to the leaf spring, and you can see the bolt is facing outward with the nut to the outside. That's done for a reason. It gets really close to this kind of girthy area of the backbone of this hanger. So we install it this way to make sure that the extra threads don't come out and have any contact under like really, really tight articulation or aggressive articulation. So I'm now gonna do my best to heave-ho this 100-pound leaf spring into place and hopefully not hurt myself. One thing we always like to do is we will snug these up just barely, but we don't fully tighten them until the vehicle's actually on the ground. Doing so can actually mess with the ride height a little bit, so it's just been something we've always done. So we'll just get them just generally snug for now, and we will snug them up after the truck's on the ground. So every bolt that we supply you is gonna be these grade 8, SAE grade 8 bolts. If you have any questions regarding torque, you can reference to an SAE grade 8 torque guide, and that will tell you exactly what to torque them. 1/2-inch bolts are 95 foot-pounds, and there's a whole bunch of them. So if you're gonna torque all those, you wanna make sure you follow that guide. The pivot bolts are 9/16. So I'm getting ready to hang the new King shock underneath this chassis, and these, as stated before, are a special length. We've done a custom hose configuration to fit these large shocks into such a small area. One thing to keep in mind, this truck, obviously we're gonna redo the exhaust, so you will not see a tailpipe here. If you have some big giant tailpipe and it's all crooked and sideways in there, you might need to be cognizant of that and make adjustments accordingly. And we kept this shock very similar to the factory location. So if your stock shock fit, this one should also, but just keep in mind, there's also gonna be some small trimming that we're gonna go into detail about. Just again, for clearance issues, we don't want any chafing on the hose or on the body of the shock itself. Okay, so we're now installing the new sway bar bracket, and I want to show you guys something. This bracket attaches with these two bolt holes right here. This is a factory hole. This hole right here, some of the chassis we've been working on have a hole, and this was designed to go in. Some do not. So if your truck does not have a hole that locates here, you simply push this bracket up after this bolts in till it basically touches the front spring mount, and then drill this hole in place, and that'll line the bracket up perfectly. So I'm getting ready to drill this hole for the mounting bracket for the sway bar on the driver's side. Just be real cautious, there's fuel lines and electrical back here for the back wiring harness. So as you're drilling through, either pull that stuff back and be real careful, have someone watch, or put something in between there so you can't damage it with the drill bit. So one awesome thing that this kit includes is a new bump stop relocation bracket. And what we've done here is we've actually, you may think that you're limiting the up travel, but you're not, because the factory bump stop relocation bracket has been removed. And remember, the factory bump stop on a four-wheel drive hits off of the block that's under the leaf spring. We've eliminated all that. This new progressive bump goes right to the top of the axle, and we've cycled it out and set the parameters perfectly so that you can do a bolt-in shock assembly and know that if you ever bottom the truck out, it's gonna hit in the right spot and have a final landing zone so you never put the pressure to your upper shock mount. So as you can see, the rear suspension is now pretty much assembled, but I wanna talk about a very, very crucial thing that you need to do, and I would recommend doing this before getting to this point. We're doing it after the fact to show you guys a little bit of where these contact areas potentially could be and why you need to do this and pay attention to what we've marked. There will be a paper install guide that's gonna help with this visual of where you need to trim, but you'll see these areas that we've highlighted in red. There's one on either side of the frame right here in these kind of sharp corners, and then some on the lower shock mounts. You do need to get in there and trim those areas. And at ride height or in the shop, it may not look like it's ever gonna hit, but under circumstances of use, they will hit, and you need to clearance them to prevent damage to your shock. So please do not skip this step. It's very important. If you're doing a high level build and you're doing like a full restoration, you're powder coating or painting your frame, you wanna do this first. We didn't do that here because we wanted to show you guys exactly where it needs to be cut and how it's gonna look with it assembled, and why, when these shocks are back in the mounts, why they could potentially get close. The other thing, remember, this is an OBS F250. We're using the factory axle in this truck, but if you were doing this same rear kit and you were swapping to a Super Duty axle, your lower shock mounts are gonna have to get replaced. There's no ways around that. The Super Duty axle, the shocks face opposite direction, so you cannot use the factory lower shock mounts. So this install is gonna look slightly different for you guys because you will have to set those lower shock mounts, and we'll have an install guide to help you guys with that. For this build, that's not the case, so we're not gonna be doing that. But we are gonna be doing some trimming here and this trimming here, and we'll show you what that looks like after we're done. Okay, so as part of the rear suspension install, you do have to notch this piece of the underside of the bed. And so you're gonna basically follow the guide that we give you, mark this and cut it. This is also the area where the bed support is mounted, but you're going to easily manipulate this to bolt to the bottom of the bed out of the way of the sway bar. So you would want to do this after you get it on the bed back on the truck so that you make sure that the sway bar arm does not collide with the bed support. And then this heat shield, front and aft, need to be removed completely in order to clear the sway bar and the upper shock mount. So at this point, you can see the bulk of the new parts are all installed on the chassis. We do have a couple loose ends that I'm gonna take care of off camera just because I don't wanna bore you guys with this stuff. It's the obvious basic stuff. The drive shaft, the new rear brake line, routing the parking brake cables to their factory location. And then after that, we're gonna put this fuel tank back in and put the bed on, and it's gonna be all buttoned up.